Hello there, time now for Back Pages tonight here on Sky Sports News, bringing you a first look at the sports stories in the morning's newspapers. Joining us this time around are Jonathan Liew from The Guardian and Charlotte Dunkert from The Times. Welcome to you both. We're quickly going to run through the back pages before we have a chat, and we'll start with The Mirror. They splash with England's emphatic win against Wales. Their headline, St George 3, Dragons 0. Too easy for Tuchel's men as Welsh walloped at Wembley. Great use of alliteration. Meanwhile, in The Sun, more coverage on England. They say it was men against boyos. Plus, they report on FIFA pushing for a 64-team World Cup in 2030. And Bruno Fernandes saying once again no to any move to Saudi Arabia. In The Telegraph, big picture of one of England's goal scorers, Bukayo Saka, and also the intriguing story of a potential Glazer sale of Manchester United featuring in this Telegraph back page. We'll have more on that story in part 2 of our show. And in The Guardian, a big picture of Ollie Watkins after his goal for England against Wales, plus news of a cash boost for Spurs, £100 million cash boost, with more to come, they say. And then an important story in The Eye as union leaders brand Sheffield Wednesday owner Chansiri disgusting after the club was hit with multiple transfer embargoes, and players and non-football staff have gone unpaid so far this year. Yeah, it's a lot to get through on Back Pages this evening. Jonathan and Charlotte, great to have you with us. Jonathan, I'll come to you first, and we'll start with England because that was a really impressive performance, wasn't it? 7 games now under Thomas Tuchel. This is the England side that the fans wanted to see.
I think so. I mean, it's been it's been a weird time for Tuchel. Obviously, there was the summer camp which went really badly. The defeat against Senegal and Andorra. Then I think that the win over Serbia, the win in Serbia, has really just totally changed the mood music around this team. I think it's a case of England fans are either totally despondent or totally cock-a-hoop. It's where do you want your statue, Thomas Tuchel? But I thought they really showed a huge amount of, like, even after they went 3-0 up, I thought a lot of the desire and the application off the ball was really good. I liked weirdly how many fouls they conceded, but trying to stop Wales from counter-attacking. I thought from front to back, the application and the desire was really positive, and I think that's a testament to what Tuchel has managed to do with the culture, with getting players to really play for their places. I think there are still a lot of places in the starting 11, a lot of places in the World Cup 2026 that are up for grabs, and I think he's managed to harness that competitiveness and get a real performance.
Yeah, there does seem to be a healthy competition for places, Charlotte, and you've got to remember that England performed this impressively without their captain Harry Kane, without Jude Bellingham, and without Cole Palmer as well.
Yeah, and then you could also throw Jack Grealish and Phil Foden into that mix as well, that there's so many talented players that were left out of that squad, and I know that was the narrative going into this game. So for them to put in the performance that we saw that they did this evening, I think Declan Rice got it right. It was refreshing because there's so many times we've all watched England and they've looked boring, they've looked laboured, they've not been able to break sides down, they've not been very exciting to watch, but they were 3 goals up within 20 minutes. And these players who have been given the opportunity, it's like they're really taking that chance because they know Tuchel hasn't settled on an 11 for the World Cup. He hasn't settled on a squad for the World Cup. So there's not that many camps now before he makes that decision. And those players that were given the opportunity this evening definitely took it.
Yeah. And it's come, Charlotte's right there, Jonathan. It's come without, some really key players. The Telegraph have picked up on this as well, that under that picture of Bukayo Saka on their pack page, they say, who needs Jude? Tuchel gamble pays off as England rout Wales. So we have this healthy competition for places, and it was interesting listening to Morgan Rogers after the match, Jonathan, where he said, yeah, I kind of think I've got my place, but also I kind of think I haven't because there is so much competition and there's so much quality still to come into this side.
Yeah, I mean, okay, let's just calm down a little bit here. Who needs Jude? I mean, I think any any club or any country in world football will still need Jude. I think first of all, I mean, the reason that Tuchel left him out of this squad, despite Bellingham wanting to play, was partly physical. I mean, he's played 8 games in a very short space of time for Real Madrid. He is coming off a series of injuries over the last couple of years, and so it just makes sense to leave him out for that reason. The other thing is that if you're going to win an international tournament at the sort of the level of international football that England are operating at, you have to win games in lots and lots of different ways. Bellingham wasn't great at last year's Euros, and yet he still won 2 games on his own. They don't beat Serbia, they don't beat Slovakia without Bellingham popping up at key moments. And they're a phase of the game. There are tournament games where you absolutely need a player who can break a deadlock, who can settle a tight game, who can do something unthinkable, brilliant, inspired, whatever. There are other phases of the game where there are going to be other situations where maybe he doesn't fit into the tactical plan quite so well. And I think it makes a huge amount of sense for Tuchel to be exploring those options. Bellingham might not even be fit next summer, whether it's for reasons of suspension or injury or personal matters, whatever. Like it's not a guarantee that you have this guy in position and in full form, and it makes perfect sense to try and explore the options that you have without him in the side. And I think it gives England so many different tools to win tournament games. So they're playing a much weaker side in Wales tonight. That they're going to come up against much stronger opposition in a tournament for sure. And having those different ways of playing, I think, gives England and gives Tuchel a lot of different clubs in his bag.
Yeah, I mean, to leave out a generational talent like Jude Bellingham would be one hell of a call if that was to be the case for the World Cup next summer. Also, staying with the theme of Tuchel, because in the back of the Times, they've gone with a headline, Tuchel calls out silent Wembley. He's saying he wanted more from the crowd. I've got quotes here in this back page story. The stadium was silent, Tuchel says. We never got any energy back from the fans. Asked if he expected more from the home supporters, he replied, yes. What more can you give than our first 20 minutes? We didn't let them escape, ball after ball, win after win. It's a bit sad, he says, Charlotte. What's Tuchel's aim here? Because are you ever going to win calling out the fans like that?
Probably not, but if for anyone who watched the game, we obviously watched it on TV, it was the Wales fans that you could hear definitely for the last 20 minutes of the game. They're obviously 3-0 down and they're really enjoying themselves on a away day out to Wembley with their shirts over their heads and chanting all the way to the end. So I get his point in terms of the England crowd did seem quiet, but the second half England performance was a little bit boring. They took their foot off the gas, didn't they? I can totally understand why they did that. They have got an important World Cup qualifier game coming up on Monday. The team changes. It was a bit more disjointed, the performance. I think fans start to leave before the end, especially when it is a friendly and they're 3-0 up. So, but what his aim is in terms of trying to call out the fans, maybe he thinks they're going to be rejuvenated for the next game and try and cheer the team on with some extra gumption or something. But I'm not too sure. It never normally ends well when you get managers criticising the fans of the team that they manage. So, yeah, an interesting call from him, but he clearly wasn't happy, and it wasn't a question. It wasn't an answer that was prompted either. He just decided to deliver this information by himself. So it's something he clearly was sat on the touchline thinking about, and definitely wanted to get his point across about the fans this evening.
Yeah, he really did. OK, staying with the home nations, because Scotland were in action, World Cup qualifying action, no less. An incredible night at Hampden Park. They came from behind against Greece to win that one 3-1 and really give their World Cup hopes that extra bit of vigour, because they're now level on points with Denmark, who are at the top of the table on goal difference. It's absolutely phenomenal, Charlotte. I mean, to come from 1-0 down to win 3-1 after not really playing that well is absolutely brilliant. Scottish fans will be dreaming of that World Cup berth, won't they?
Yeah, they've put themselves in an absolutely great position. I think that they're joint top of the Group C, just behind Denmark on goal difference. So they've obviously got another important game in this international break. But like you say, it wasn't about the performance tonight for Scotland. I think there's going to be lots of criticism about that, because they didn't play the way that everyone would have wanted them to play. But who cares? They won 3-1. I think there was a massive save as well from Angus Gunn when they were 2-1 up, and then they went down and scored their third. So everyone at Hampden Park couldn't believe what they were seeing. But like you said, they've put themselves in a really good position to hopefully go on and qualify now for next summer's tournament. So some more games still to get there, but especially when they were 1-0 down and playing the way that they were, I don't think there was many Scotland fans that would have envisaged tonight ending the way that it did.
Yeah, absolutely brilliant result. And they've got Belarus on Sunday, which they will go into as favourites. And I bet you the Scotland players are probably hoping that Katy Perry stays in the national team hotel more often, because she seems to be a good luck charm. OK, staying with the World Cup, back page of the Sun, push for 64 teams in 2030, Jonathan. We've spoken about this a few times. What do you think of this idea? I mean, I can understand, we can't have everyone in the World Cup, for goodness sake. It kind of diminishes the integrity of it, some might say. But also, you want to give more teams a chance, the smaller nations, to get involved playing the top teams, don't you? Oh, sadly, I think we've lost Jonathan. We have lost Jonathan. Charlotte, I'll put that question to you. We're talking about pushing for, increasing the World Cup teams to 64 from 2030. Do you feel like that's a good idea to let the lower profile countries, smaller nations, to get more involved in playing international football and playing on the world stage?
I think if you look at the quality of the product and the quality of the tournament in terms of what it is that fans want to see, I think it's going to diminish it. 64 teams, that will have meant that the tournament has doubled in size from Qatar, if I'm not mistaken. So it's a huge number of teams. Qualifying would seemingly be pointless, wouldn't it? Because nearly everyone would be qualifying for the tournament. And I just think, yeah, like I said, the disparity in terms of the top teams that we see now and then the other teams that are be coming into the tournament, it would just be ridiculous. It's more games, the schedule would be wild, the tournament would presumably be longer. I mean, they're constantly looking at ways, aren't they, to revamp these competitions, refresh them, make them more exciting, make them more interesting. But for me, there isn't going to be enough jeopardy in this if they increase it to 64 teams, doubling it from what we saw in Qatar. So, I mean, there's a little while to go yet till we reach that stage. So it'd be interesting to see if it does get through. But yeah, for me, I don't think it's the best idea.
OK, yeah, I think a lot of people are undecided about this current proposal. We'll wait to see. I'm sure it will come up again on back pages tonight. Charlotte, for the moment, thank you very much. We'll hopefully get Jonathan back as well. We're going to take a quick break now, but when we come back, we'll look at more of the sports stories in the morning's newspapers, including this in the Metro. How about this? Manchester United legend Roy Keane calling for Diego Simeone to take over as next United manager. Stay with us. Hello again, you're watching Back Pages tonight. Welcome back to Jonathan Liew from The Guardian and Charlotte Dunker from The Times. Let's go straight to the back page of the Daily Telegraph. An intriguing story here about Manchester United in a story by James Ducker and Tom Morgan. I'll just read you the first paragraph to just set the table on this, because Manchester United, it says, were at the centre of a shock takeover claim last night that raised questions over the ownership of the Glazers and Sir Jim Ratcliffe. This comes as Turki Al-Sheikh claiming, that's the renowned Saudi sports advisor, claiming that United, Charlotte, were in advanced talks about fresh investment. Now, I know you're all over Manchester United and events at Old Trafford. What are you hearing about this?
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one, really, because it's come from that tweet that you just mentioned as well. He's obviously a prolific guy over in Saudi Arabia. He's got 7.2 million followers on Twitter, and people have sat up and listened to what he said and believed that the Glazers might be interested in selling, although he has come out and clarified that he didn't mean selling to him. All sources at Manchester United are saying it's news to them. Sources close to the Ineos regime, as in Jim Ratcliffe, are saying that they don't believe it to be true either. Now, obviously, because Jim Ratcliffe has that 30% stake, that doesn't mean that the Glazers aren't going to consider selling. I think for the right price they definitely would, and there's a clause within Ratcliffe's agreement when he bought the club, I think it was triggered in August this year, that meant if the right offer came in, I think it was over something like $33 a share, that the Glazers could sell the whole club, not just their portion of it, but Jim Ratcliffe would be bought out as well. So it is potential that the Glazers could sell the entire club, but at the minute this just seems like a bit of a strange one, with all this news and this hype and this excitement that's been triggered by this one tweet. I think Manchester United are in talks with Saudi authorities about potentially playing a friendly over there. Obviously, you know, they've got no European football this season. That affects them financially as well. So there's a potential for a mid-season friendly to generate more funds. So there is ongoing dialogue between the club and the Saudi authorities, but everyone at the club and everyone connected to Ineos says at the minute, as far as they're concerned, that isn't anything about a potential Glazer sale.
Yeah, OK. Just reading a bit more of this article in the Telegraph, and they say that the takeover claim came just hours, of course, after Ratcliffe had talked up his relationship with the Glazers in that podcast from The Times, despite the club's struggles over the past 18 months. And it's raised questions over the dynamic between the minority and the majority shareholders at Old Trafford. Jonathan, what do you read into all this, particularly after those comments by Sir Jim Ratcliffe about the Glazers?
Yeah, frankly, I don't buy that a takeover of one of the world's biggest football clubs would be initiated over the Twitter account, the X account of Turki Al-Sheikh. I just don't buy that. I think there is a slightly deeper game going on here, whether it's an attempt to buy a minority stake, whether it's an attempt to smoke out potential bidders, whether it's an attempt to, I guess, kind of test the waters and see whether there is any kind of softness there amongst the Glazers, amongst Ratcliffe for a sale. I think that's probably more likely what's going on here. We've seen this with Tottenham, with the ousting of Daniel Levy, the Lewis family taking over. I think there is going to be a lot of speculative, not even bids, but interest, people trying to test the water, seeing whether there is the grounds there for a potential sale further down the line, maybe, or whether, there are grounds to start negotiations. I think that's what we start. And very often these things are started through the media because there simply isn't the traction at a more formal level to get these negotiations underway.
And staying with Manchester United, Charlotte, back page of The Sun, Bruno, no to Saudis. There's been interest, apparently, in this story by Martin Blackburn of the Portuguese skipper attracting interest from Al Hilal and Al Ittihad over the past few months, but apparently knocked both of them back. What do you make of this?
Yeah, we saw in the summer, didn't we, that there was strong interest from Saudi, and his agent went over there and had talks with various different clubs about potential move, and he came out himself and said that he's committed to Manchester United, he's committed to the project, he wants to win things there. And I think if you take into consideration his age as well and his desire to win things at the top level, including to still compete obviously for the national team in Portugal, I think maybe it does come up 2 or 3 years too soon. I think he obviously earns a lot of money from the way you speak to him, is that going to be a driving factor in terms of to force him over to Saudi? I'm not too sure, but this Manchester United project, as it were, that he signed up to, I'm not sure whether that's going down the same path as it was when he first signed or not, or whether he must fully believe in what Amarim's doing or what the club's doing, and believes maybe that success is coming back to the club. But as far as everything that he's ever said about the club, he remains committed to them. He wants them to win things, and obviously he's a captain and he wants to win things with them there in that position. So I'm sure it won't go away. I'm sure when the January window comes up, we'll be hearing him linked with Saudi clubs. I'm sure he'll be linked with them again in the summer. And yeah, it'll be an interesting one that keeps rumbling on, I'm sure.
This is an interesting one in the sports pages of the Metro, because we heard from Sir Jim Ratcliffe that he wants to give Amorim 3 years to prove that he is the good coach that he believed he was when he brought him into Old Trafford. But Roy Keane, Manchester United legend, apparently keen on Atletico Madrid's Diego Simeone to become the next United manager if Amorim was to leave. Now, of course, Simeone's been at Atletico for 14 years, perhaps. Maybe he's after a new challenge. Who knows? 2 La Liga titles, 2 Europa League titles. What do you think, Jonathan? If Amorim was to leave at whatever point, could a fiery, passionate character like Simeone be the right move for United?
No. I mean, quite apart from the fact that, he's struggling quite a bit at Atletico at the moment. I think his classic trademark style of football, I think, he's found himself at a little bit of a crossroads tactically at Atletico, trying to adapt his style in I think a league where he's being found out a little bit. That's the natural, I guess, culmination of a trajectory where he's reinvented. I think he reinvented Atletico and spent so many years transforming them into a force. And I guess there's a certain, a lack of ideas there. The other fact is, he doesn't speak English, and that's not, that's not a knock on him. Like, lots of people don't speak English. But I think if you are Manchester United and you have a pick of some of the great coaches in the world, you probably want one who speaks English, and who can. I think Simeone's communication skills are fantastic, but you would lose a hell of a lot, if he can't communicate in his first language with a lot of the dressing room. I mean, the wider point here is, like, why is this new? Roy Keane wants Simeone in. Why is this news? If Wes Brown wants Allegri in, like Ronnie Warburg wants Brendan Rodgers to be given a go. I think a lot of this is just like throwing star names at a headline and hoping it sticks. I rate Roy Keane as a player and kind of as a commentator. As a guy to pick the next United manager, not so much.
No, probably leave it to Sir Jim Ratcliffe then, shall we? Let's go to the back of the eye. Union leaders brand Owls owner Chansiri disgusting. Now, for those that, haven't quite caught up with this story by Edward Elliott says that Union leaders are fighting to ensure Sheffield Wednesday's non-football staff receive their salaries in full, with the behaviour of club owner Chansiri branded disgusting. It comes after, of course, multiple times this year that the non-football playing staff and the players themselves at Sheffield Wednesday have not been paid in full. Jonathan, this is a terrible situation that's now called in one of the UK's biggest unions in Unite to try and help matters.
Yeah, look, every industry with money flowing through it, and football has a lot of, really quite stupid money flowing through it, is going to attract people whose philosophy is, let me make as much money as I can, and if anyone gets hurt or, disturbed or put out in the process, I don't really care about that. Chansiri is a terrible owner. I think most Sheffield Wednesday fans will tell you that. But, I don't blame him, because it is the regulatory structure that allowed him to come into this club, to take over a cherished institution. Football's not a free market. Sheffield Wednesday fans aren't going to go somewhere else if their team isn't performing. They're not going to hop across the city and start going to Bramall Lane. You have a captive audience there. And so it is incumbent on English football and the government, I think, and the regulator is coming in, but you need systems in place where an owner can't just simply come in and once you give him the keys, he can do what he wants. Like, how are you going to get this guy out? Owners need to be able to show that they have funds and put some of those funds in trust, in escrow, so that they can't simply go on, but not paying wages and running the club down.
Yeah. You're right. It's a terrible situation, and hopefully there will be a resolution soon. Jonathan Liew, thank you for your company. Charlotte Dunker, great to have you with us as well on Back Pages. Now, of course, if you missed any of the show, there's another chance to see Back Pages tonight at hour. It's also available as a podcast, as always. Just download Back Pages on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, you can join us again on Friday nights. Our guests will be the Daily Mail's Ian Ladyman and Charlie Wyatt from The Sun as well. Do join